Okay, apparently we are live here. Just doing a little signal check, quality check, video check, and everything. And garage check. Yeah, the garage is shit. Okay. Hey, Bone. So, first, second, third. All right. Now, I'm just doing a signal check, and I'm going to take the opportunity to also review the Y chromosome a little bit because sometimes it's confusing as to how I arrive at which is which and who's who. So just a matter of elimination for the most part. So um, let's go ahead and check this out maybe a little bit. Now I can find out where I'm going. Hold on a second. Here I am. I have to find the right page here. Okay. I'll try this again here. So yeah, here we have a map of the Y chromosomes. So the first one is obvious, which would be, I really can't zoom in any more than this. But anyways, trying to figure out how to, my laptop, I can zoom in better than this. Hold on, I think my microphone is a little far away. That way I won't have to yell so much. Okay. As long as it doesn't start screeching, I'm good. So yeah, to begin with, it's kind of obvious that the J1 says, it even says right here, Middle Eastern Semitic. So the Semitic is FGHIJ. Well, actually, it's down here. It would be FGHI and J. The K belongs over here in the other section, and this F belongs in the Semitic column, you might say. So we pretty much have the Semitic lines figured out. The J1 would be probably the Arabic, right? Because it's in the Arabic region. Of course, this would include all the Eberus and the Eberites and everything. And even the descendants of Aaron, I believe, are J1 as well. But the J2 is strictly Judaic, it seems. But they're here as well. They're, of course, in the Levant area, and they're throughout the Middle East. The J2, so it'd be the J1. The J2 is clearly Abrahamic, Semitic. But of course, we have the rest of them that are Semitic too, and we can, by the process of elimination, we can go ahead and figure out who's who. So there's the F, the G, the H, the I, and the J. Notice how the I and the J is together here. There's a reason for that. Is because there's really basically the same branch of the same tree. So that would be the Semitic branch right there. And by the process of elimination, we just go ahead and determine the I and the J as being Abrahamic because they basically belong to the same tree. Anyways, I mean, someone might dispute that, but to me, it's kind of obvious, really. Okay, so the next thing we'll do here is by process of elimination, we'll go to the Elamo Dravidians. Okay, the Elamo Dravidians are clearly, obviously, the descendants of Elam, the Elamites. So the Elamites are another descendant of Arpachshad, okay, another descendant of Shem, which is the Semitic line. Arpachshad would be the J1, the J2, and the I's, which we'll get to. And we have right here, it's very clear that the Elamites, which are the also Semitic descendants of Shem from Elam, they are the Dravidians, and they're designated here as Dravidian H. So there's no doubt about that. So we have the J1, the J2, and the H already identified. Okay, quickly we'll go over here to Africa, and we have the Berbers, the Egyptians, and the Cushites. They're all E3s. So that really kind of indicates that the this other group over here would be Hamitic. So the A, B, C, D, and E, that would be the C, D, and E, are Hamitic. The reason these two are together is just for the purpose of um, a worldview. It's for the purpose of trying to say to promote the belief, the out of Africa belief. So they put the D and the E together, even though they can't figure out which everybody else descended. Was it the C or the D? But they put the D and the E together here. But actually, the both the C and the D and the A and the B came from the E, but that's another story. But anyways, here we have it. Every basically every African is an E. It used to be they were all E1B1s, but it was too confusing because it was E1B1 B2 B1 B1 and it was just made no sense at all. But the some of the pharaohs are E1B1s. Famous Africans are E1B1s, but it's just all very confusing. So they had to divide it up in another way to identify the different groups. And so here we have the different groups divided up here. It's the M81 Berbers, the V12 Egyptians, the V32 Cushites. But they're all obviously E3. They're all obviously belong to the same Hamite African paternal descendants. So, and they're all these are what is defined as African is everybody that's E or A, B, C, or D. Which C and D aren't even in Africa, but that's another story we can get to. Or we can get to it sooner rather than later because I guess because that's the way I was able to identify some of the descendants. So what we have here, these are all grandsons of Noah that we're talking about. Of course, there's Arpachshad or Arphaxad, which is the J1, the J2, the I1, the I2. We have Elam, the H, Dravidians, which happens to be the gypsies in Europe as well. So the gypsies in Europe are Elamites, descended from Elam. Of course, there's all kinds of other identifying people to be identified here. There's a whole range of Semitic people to be identified. The Eberus, the Eberites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, just a whole range of people. the Edomites, and that bad word, the Edomites, and all that stuff. But anyway, so there's a whole range of people here to identify in the J1, the J2, and as you go, the I1, the I2 as well, which is Semitic. It says Germanic up here, but it's actually, this Germanic is not really Germanic, it's Semitic. You know, just a matter of fact. It belongs to the Semitic family tree. Here's I and J right together. Not only is it Semitic, but it's more than likely Abrahamic, which is another thing we can get into. But what caught my attention was this CY chromosome over here. I'm thinking, well, the CY chromosome is African. How did the African CY chromosome get over here? And why is it so prevalent? And why did it go all the way to America over here, all the way to America, Central and South America? And I'm thinking to myself. I say, well, who could possibly be this African in the middle of Asia? And then a name comes to mind, of course. Of course, that name is Nimrod. So I'm thinking, Nimrod, I don't think he was Semitic. So who was Nimrod? So I go check to see who Nimrod was. And sure enough, Nimrod is the son of Cush. He's a Cushite. But he never went to Africa because he happened to be king of the whole world, king of the land of Shinar. He had kingdoms all over the place, and each city, town, or whatever was a kingdom, and they were all his descendants. People wonder why, how does somebody get in power like that and stay in power? Well, they're all his descendants. You know, it's his sons are scattered all over the place. But eventually, Nimrod was killed. His sons, eventually, his kingdoms fell. And there's a record that says the house of Nimrod, just like the house of David, the house of Nimrod was subdued for a time. So, which makes a lot of sense. But there was still a house of Nimrod because he was king over the whole world and he had a lot of descendants, a lot of sons. So then his sons just basically migrated, as you can see, migrated to the east. So who else could it be besides the descendants of Nimrod? Of course, we have somebody else over here too, is the Andamanese. The DY chromosome apparently never went to Africa either until much later. They became the Tibetans and some of the Siberian, Paleo-Siberians, and 1/3 of the Japanese population is descended from the DY chromosome, which is also probably a descendant of Kush. So it'd be probably a brother, I'm guessing a brother, another one of these sons of Kush that was in this area over here. They just kept going this way, and of course they went this way, as well as the CY chromosome did too. So the CY chromosome is over here too, and we know very well that the CY chromosome went all the way to Australia, the Australian Aborigine is the paternal line. Of course, there's a KY chromosome here too, which is a Japhethite, an Asian Y chromosome. So there's the African Y chromosome here and the Asian Y chromosome. But this is not even the D. This is the C still. So the C, not only did it go this way, it also came down around here and all the way down here. And of course, a lot of Asians, I hate to break it to people, but a lot of Asians, like Randolph Richardson was saying was asking me what does a black Asian look like or something to that effect, right? I hate to break it to him, but a lot of Asians are black, you know. So, the Papua New Guineans. Well, these of course are Asian Y chromosomes over here too, but then there's a C over here, and the C's over here, and of course the D. So there's a lot of dark-skinned Asians over here with, of course, African features because, of course, you have it also in the Micronesian, Melanesian, and Polynesian populations. You have the CY chromosome, the C2. So you have the C2, C4, and all the way in America, you have the C3. So, so that made perfect sense to me. That was what got me into this whole Y chromosome thing was realizing that the CY chromosome over here is not an accident. It's because Nimrod was the first king in the land of Shinar, Mesopotamia, when they got off the ark. He was king of the whole world. And his descendants, instead of going to Africa, they went east. They migrated east, while his father and his other brothers went to Africa, with the exception, of course, of maybe this DY chromosome, who also didn't go to Africa either. I mean, maybe he did, but then maybe he went this way, or maybe he went from here down this way and never actually went to Africa. He went this way instead. So, and when I say he, it's his Y chromosome, not necessarily him personally, of course. So, so now we've identified basically all of the African Y chromosomes, which are A, B, C, D, and E. But we've identified the I and the J and the H, which is the Elamites. So the only ones left now are the G and the F. Now this is where it takes a little bit of speculation, which is still subject to review or change upon further notice, but I'm pretty sure that the GY chromosome is also well, it's obviously a descendant of Shem, but the GY chromosome, I'm pretty sure, is the descendant of Asher, who is the son of Shem, who's the grandson of Noah, of course. So all of these people, they're all grandsons and great grandsons of Noah. They're not far from the tree, right? So this GY chromosome over here are the descendants of Asher because you look at other maps, they're known to have gone into Europe. So so they're in Europe and they're here, and of course they're everywhere here, and they're in the Jewish population as well. They're basically every Jewish population there is has the GY chromosome. It's just kind of like a signature uh, mark in the Jewish population, as well as some of the other ones like the T, which we can get into later maybe. But yeah, maybe I still have it a half an hour before John Maddox's interview with James Tour or live stream, whatever it is. So then this yeah, so we know these are the Elamites, the Gypsies are the Elamites, the G is the Asher. So we have, who else is left would be the F. So the FY chromosome over here, the F, G, H, I, and J would either be Aram of the Arameans and or Lud of the Lydians. And it turns out there's actually two two branches of F that are totally unrelated to each other. So one basically has to be Aram of the Arameans, the other one has to be Lud of the Lydians. So I named the F the Arameans or the Syrians, and the other F2 would be the descendants of Lud or the Lydians, which of course are still grandsons of Noah. So it'd be Lud, Aram, Elam, Asher, and Arpachshad, the five sons of Shem, the grandsons of Noah. So we basically have the Semitic Y chromosomes covered, and the Hamitic Y chromosomes covered, with the exception of Canaan, which would be an E too. It's another E. So um, so we've already covered half the map of the Y chromosomes. Now all we have to do is to be able to identify the Japhethite family tree, which there is a lot less information, even though the Bible does have the the, um, in the table of nations, it does name all the sons of Japheth, which are again still the grandsons of Noah, and even some of the great grandsons of Noah, which we can get into, which is probably what you have to get into in order to be able to identify some of the descendants of Japheth. So the Japheth are basically Asians, but of course, in Europe, the Europeans have the R1b, the R1a Y chromosome, which is an Asian Y chromosome, which is the reason why Europeans do have some Asian features and characteristics, and it's just a matter of fact, can't get away with it. I can't get out of it. We are who we are, and that's it. But it's not a lot, because it turns out the mitochondrial DNA is like 98% Semitic, and about maybe or 95% Semitic. About in some places in Southern Europe, it'd be like the mitochondrial maternal line would be like maybe 4%, 3 or 4% L, which is from Africa, and it would be like maybe 1 or 2% Asiatic maternal Y chromosome, which would be M. Basically, M is the only maternal Y chromosome there is in Europe. Until you get up in these areas here, there's some more maternal Y chromosome. The farther north you go, the farther east you go, the more maternal Y chromosome there is, and the more Asiatic people, the features people have. Of course, even if you go up into Finland here, there are people that have Asiatic features, which is the NY chromosome, of course, is Asiatic as well. And the R is too. And turns out that in India, there's a lot more Asiatic maternal Y chromosome as well. But it turns out that there was a group of Jews who went to Europe. They went basically this way to Europe, into Germany, on the Rhine, along the Rhine River, which runs between Germany and France. I've been there. I lived there. And they identify themselves as being the Ashkenazi. Now, Ashkenaz is the great grandson of Noah. The father of Ashkenaz is Gomer. So the people of Ashkenaz, the prevalent Y chromosome of even the Ashkenazi Jews, which is not Semitic. I mean, I'm talking about the Y chromosome that's not Semitic. the Asian Y chromosome that's prevalent among the Jewish people, calling themselves Ashkenazi, is the R1A. So it's easy for me to identify the descendants of Ashkenaz as being the R1A descendants. So that was easy enough. That was probably the easiest Y chromosome for me to identify among the Japhethites. And the rest are a little bit murky. Um, and the reason why I'm letting everybody know is because maybe I can get some more information to identify exactly who is who. Because it turns out I used to think that this all the RY chromosome was Gomer. Well, it is Gomer, but you can actually divide it between two of the sons of Gomer, which is, of course, Ashkenaz would be the great grandson of Noah. And then Ashkenaz's brother, who went to Europe, is Ribtha. Um, so I'm saying that the Ribthais would be the R1b Y chromosome, and and Ashkenaz is the R1a, but they're both Gomer. Anyways, so so that's it's pretty clear to me because they're both R, meaning that they belong to the same family tree, as opposed to Javan or Tiraz. Javan and Tiraz are two other sons that have to be identified who are Japhethites. Now it turns out there's one more son of Japheth that is easy to identify, and that's Javan. Of course, Javan had sons, which would be his grandsons, would be Tarsus, Kittim, and some others, but they're all Mediterranean people. So these Mediterranean people mixed in with the Phoenicians and the Jewish people, because I was always wondering, whenever I look at the Jewish Y chromosome, there's always the TY chromosome mixed up in there. It seemed to be prevalent, not a lot, but it was always seemed to be there, the TY chromosome. So I'm thinking, well, what's this TY chromosome? So it turns out it's probably the descendants of Javan, which would be Kittim and Tarsus and these other people that were in the Isle of Crete, basically the Mediterranean area. They, like the Sea Peoples and stuff like that, which became, later a more mixed group of people. But anyways, it began with the Javans being the prevalent Sea People, and became part of the Phoenicians that went to America, which is another thing that I've already, looked into extensively. But anyways, it turns out the TY chromosome is prevalent in the Jewish populations, and so I was able to identify them as being descendants of Javan, because they're the Sea People, the Mediterranean Sea Peoples, who also happened to become part of the Phoenicians, who also went to America, along with the R1b. The R1b went to America too, as well, with the T, with the Phoenician people, with the Jewish people, with the G, with the E, and even the B, a B and the E, became part of the Phoenician people who went to America, which included, interestingly enough, it included the J1, the J2, the I1, the I2, the T, the G, the E, the B, the R1B. They all went to America, and their Y chromosome is there in America, in the Native American Indian population to this day. And you may have heard stories of Black American Indians. That could be why, because the E and the B did go to America in the time of the Phoenicians, in the days of King Solomon, which is much later, of course. But that's how I was able to identify the TY chromosome. So I have the R1A, R1B, descendants of Gomer. So I have Gomer, I have Javan, and Javan's brother over here in the Greeks, or the Thracians, would be the L, because because the L and the T are sometimes associated as being with the Greek people, and they belong in this area as well, which is another thing. When Alexander the Great went to India, he went east, of course, conquered all this whole land, Alexander the Great, and he took with him the L and the T, which is the Greeks, into India. They're there to this day as well. So I was able to identify the L as the Thracians, which are the Greeks. The L and the T are the Greeks then. And then, so we have the L, the T, the R, and the R. Oh, so that's, what is that? That's three. Three out of, what, six sons of Japheth. So the ones that are left would be then the K. And since the K happens to be in this area around here, and the Middle East as well, because there were different people that conquered the Anatolian region, or the basically the Fertile Crescent. First, it was the Assyrians, descendants of Asher, and then it was, they took turns, and then it was the Elamites, and then it was the Arameans. The Arameans were the Syrians, and they wreaked havoc and went all over the place. But in the process, they spread out the Y chromosome all over the place, which is the same as the Medes. When the Medes and the Persians, took over the place or conquered the place, then they also spread out the KY chromosome in these areas as well, which is, that's what I believe the Medes are, at least for the time being, would be the KY chromosome, since they settled in this area below the Caspian Sea, and that would give them access to the east, easy access to the east, which is the reason why the KY chromosome is in, of course, Micronesia, Melanesia, Australia, and these areas here, Philippines, the KY chromosome. So that is an Asian Y chromosome, or Asiatic Y chromosome, and they would be the descendants of the Medes, as far as my designation is concerned. So that would leave, so since we have Gomer, we have Tiraz, we have Javan taken care of, and we can also talk about Neanderthals too, but they haven't identified the Y chromosome of Neanderthals. Maybe they don't want to, maybe they can't, because they went extinct early on, and it wouldn't be comparable to anybody's Y chromosome today, probably. But so we've identified now the K, the T, the L, and the R. So we have left of the sons of Japheth would be Meshach, Tubal, and Magog. There's three more sons. So my guess is that Magog is the largest population, which seems to be the case, that Magog would be the largest population. They would have entered either this area up here or this area on the other side of the Caspian Sea over here. in this general area over here to begin with, of course. But since they were the largest population to begin with, they became the largest population today, which is the OY chromosome. Now, this NY chromosome, I'm not sure if it's separate from the O or not, or if it's the same population. But since you have this division over here between the two great grandsons over here, you could have, who knows if there's a separation here or not. But the N seems to be connected to the O family tree somehow. But if not, the N could be Meshach, and if not, let me see, Tubal. There was one more Tubal I had to identify. So we have the K, the L, and the T. The N and O together. The M and the S are not really together, but they seem to be. Oh, the P. So they got the PQR. The R, we have the R1, the R1A, R1B, and the Q is probably Togarma. So it's Ashkenaz, Ripta, Togarma, and possibly Tubal is the P, is what I'm wondering. Either that P or maybe it's Meshach, I don't know. Or since Meshach went north, maybe this N population is Meshach. So it could be the N population is Meshach, or like I said, the P population. So it's a P, Q, and R. Now they have this as being one turned into the other, PQR, but from my experience with looking at the Y chromosome, they tend to be different people. You know, like the Arameans were the F. The Arameans were the F, and the Lydians are the F2. So it turns out to be a major population. When I first started looking at this, I thought that F was a very small, insignificant population that was basically half this and half this, but it's not the case. F is a big, huge population. It's actually divided into two separate groups. So that's why I have them as the Arameans and the Lydians. So the same thing could be true over here with the PQRs. The P could be Tubal or Meshach, and then we still have the M and the S over here. But the M and the S are so close together. Of course, they separated all the way back at the beginning, but they're so close together, they could be like, two different brothers or two different great grandsons or something of descendant of the Medes or something, for all we know. But and they all seem together, but they all seem separate as well. That's the thing. The K goes all the way back to the beginning. The M goes all the way back to the beginning. Depending on the validity of their information, as opposed to the N over here. The N seems to be joined to the O, and so who knows if they're Magog? They could be Magog as well. They could be part of Magog that separated early on, if the information that we're given is correct. So basically, that's how I have this divided up or separated. So that's about it. Hello, everybody. Honesty Angel, Erica Hubner, and Jeremy Martin, One Cow Stampede, Jeremy Martin Bond. And Honesty Angel, and we're all about ready to go over to John Maddox's interview of James Tour um, in a little bit, but that's about it. That's the reason um, and redefine living, and that's the reason why I'm putting this out there is so that maybe I can get some more information to be able to identify some of the Japhethites because they're a little bit hard to identify because of the lack of information on them. But of course, I have to study more up on Asian history as well. But the O is the largest population. It seems to be Magog. And the N seems to be a part of the O population. And the M and the S seem to be associated with a K population, which is the Medes. And then there's Tubal. We have to reconcile or find out who Tubal is, which was also in the Mediterranean, so that might be a clue as well, I think. So that might help us to identify somebody. So that's about it. Make sure I'm not missing too much here. Yeah, I say to myself, oh, there was this Canadian guy. I knew this Canadian guy. He would always say, I say to myself, self. It was hilarious. He's from Saskatchewan, Canada. But I went to on a trip to Brazil, and he was with Teen Missions, and we were teenagers, and we were building building a building for the missionaries where I grew up. Tubal as in Tubal Cain? No, I don't think it's Tubal Cain. Tubal as in the son of Japheth, who is one of the Japhethites, or the Asian Y chromosomes. So that just about covers it, pretty much, though. Um, we have the R1A all the way down here, or no, it is R1A. It's R1A, and then we have the R2A over here too, which is probably a branch of the same tree somewhere. It's R1A up here. This is what they call the Indo-Iranian, the Aryan. They call it the Aryan invasion of India or something like that. It's not really Aryan; it's actually Asian. The Asian or invasion of India, which of course was dark, because we know why it was dark. It was because of this population here and this population here, which had African features. And of course, Nimrod's descendants, which went up this way over to America, went all the way here, became the C3 Nadines, or Nadinis, or Nadine, and all the way into South America and Central America, where the Olmec statues are, which have clearly defined African and Asian features, which Randolph Richardson was trying to make fun of me about. And so I have to do a news flash for Randolph Richardson that a lot of Asians are black. In case he didn't know, a lot of the Asians are black, including, of course, India. The southern India is dark skinned too. And of course, they has the class system because of the lighter skinned R1As up here. And then as you go farther south, it gets darker. And then they have that class system because of it. But, and of course, there's still the mixture. You have the Greeks over here, the TY chromosome, the LY chromosome, which is the Thracians and the Javans, and the Dravidians, which is Semitic. So you have the Semitics and the Greeks over here, and the of course Gomer, descendants of Gomer, which this one would be Ashkenaz here. So the descendants of Ashkenaz went this way, and they went this way as well. They went both directions. And the Jewish people that went up into Europe began calling themselves Ashkenazi because, of course, they went to the land of Ashkenaz, very early on, apparently. Of course, they were traders, trading, but they remained practicing Jews, and we know the rest of the story of that because there's Sephardic Jews, which are over in this area, and they were chased out of Spain and Portugal because they were very racist and discriminatory. Portugal, they kicked out a lot of Jews, sent them to Brazil. Spain, they kicked them out of Spain, sent them off into different parts of Europe and Africa. And some of the Sephardic Jews speak Arabic and sing Arabic and everything else, and the other ones are Jewish. And of course, then you have the Ashkenazis, and then you have the hidden Israelite population, which is the I2s, which are quote unquote Germanic, went up into this area, and that's what I became. I became a descendant of one of these Vikings that came over into Scotland, and now you know the rest of the story. Anyway, so yeah, I'm a little bit late. We got to go check out logical, probable, possible, probable. His live stream. So, signing out. God bless everybody. Take care. If I may. Mr. Lizard, what's going on? We're going over to logical, probable, possible right now.